Hey everybody, and welcome back to web design. Today we're going to start talking about the CSS box model. Okay, the box model is really about us being able to organize, position, and space our HTML tags. So that means that we're going to be able to move things around. We're going to be able to space them out. We're going to be able to change their colors, their backgrounds, and the space between objects. Okay, so the CSS box model is kind of like the start of us being able to design our page and start laying it out like we would in Adobe Illustrator or Adobe InDesign. But the only difference is that we're going to be doing this with code instead of just boxes and kind of like moving around. So let's first introduce you guys to a couple ideas. We're still working inside the style tags that's inside the head of the document. Okay, so remember that any CSS that we put in is going to be in between the two style tags. Okay, so that's what it's going to be. All right, you can see right here we have background color. We put that in just so that we can identify the specific item, and then over here we have border, and then we have some other ones: margin left, margin right, margin top, and then padding. Okay, so these are the things that will make space around an HTML element. So over here I have the properties. We're talking about width, height, border, margin, padding today, and we're going to talk about how can we manipulate all of this so that we can get a better design going for our page. Okay, so margin again is the space that goes around the HTML element. Now we're applying the CSS to the H1 tag. Okay, and you can see here we have border, 5 pixels. The border is solid, and then it's blue. So you can see over here I have the blue border that goes all the way around my H1 element. Then I have something called margin left, right, and top. Okay, now these are separate CSS properties. Margin left will literally control all the space on the left of the HTML element. Margin right will control all the space to the right of the element, and then margin top will control all the space at the top of the element. Okay, so what we can do is we can control each one individually, or we can control margin all at once. So I can actually delete all of this and just say margin 5%, and what it will do is that it will give me 5% margin around everything. Oops. Oh, sorry. Go here, save it here, refresh it again, and you can see now we have 5% that goes around. Now you're probably asking, well, what does 5% mean? 5% means that it's 5% of the page. So now, if we wanted to do something, we can go ahead and make this larger, and you can see that the space actually grows, or actually the H1 tag grows as the page gets larger. So it's always going to remain 5%. So that padding, the margin, will be 5% of however large this particular page is. So if it's really small like that, you can see that it got smaller. It's 5% all the way around, the page. If it gets really large, again, this is 5% of the entire page. Now this concept right here is called responsive design. Okay, we're starting to get into something called responsive design. Responsive design focuses around what size browser are you looking at this, or what size screen. So if you have a really small tablet, that would be like tablet size, right? This might be laptop size, and this would be desktop size. So again, the idea here is that this is going to resize based on the size of your screen and your browser. Okay. Now let's go back over here. Let's say that we wanted to just have our margin different on all sides. We can certainly do that. We go back into that concept of margin top, left, and right. And we can also do margin bottom as well, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Let's say that we wanted our margin at the top to be significantly smaller than our margin at the left or the right. So at this point, I can set margin left and margin right, keep it at 5%, but then margin top is going to be 1%. So this allows us to play around and vary our spacing in between our elements. Okay, so I'm going to save that refresh this over here, and you can see all of a sudden the space at the top has gotten a lot smaller. We still have the 5% on the left and the right, but the space on the top has gotten smaller. Okay. We can also change the padding on the inside as well. We can have the padding be 5%, we can have it be 10%, it doesn't really matter, but it's going to give us more space or less space around the actual text or around the actual element. Okay, so again, allowing us to change here will, we'll be able to control how much space is in between the border and the actual HTML element. Right now, you can see that I have a certain amount of space. If I go ahead and save this and I change it to 10%, you can see that it's become a lot larger. So the space between the HTML content and the space between the border has now grown to 10% of the page. Now, what's interesting is that the padding says 10%, right? This is 10%, this is 10%, and this is 10%. So really what we're looking at is we're looking at a great deal of space, 20%. So this whole thing right here, the H1 will actually take up more than 20% of the page height. Okay, because again, we're 10% here, 10% there. So that's actually ends up being 20%. And you can see that it grows based on how large the page gets. Okay. Now, if we want to make it smaller, we can go down to maybe 2%, right? Save that again, refresh it, and we get 2%. So now we have 2% going all the way around. Remember that it's 2% at top, 2% at bottom, 2% on the left, 2% on the right. So it's actually greater than 2% in terms of its total area, okay, of the page. So let's go ahead and try paragraph, okay? Paragraph, we're going to try the same thing. We're going to go P right here, and then we're going to put in our curly brackets. We're also going to put in a background color for our P tags. We're going to use, let's go with gray for now, okay? And then we're going to start putting in border, margin, and padding to fulfill our CSS. And we're going to put in border, colon, 5px, just like the other one, solid, and then we're going to go with blue again. And then this time for our margin, we're going to go margin 5%. And I'll explain why I'm going for margin 5%. And then padding, we're going to go with 7% on the inside. So I'm going to explain why I did, forgot that, why I did 5%. One of the reasons is that if the margin left and margin right up here on H1 are 5%, then I want to keep it consistent down below. So that means that this paragraph and this H1, their borders or edges will be aligned on the page. So we're going to save this, refresh it, and you can see here, that's how it looks. So right now we can see that alignment, that there's some space here, there's some space here, and these two objects or elements are aligned to each other, okay? Now, that being said, there is also another thing that we can do, okay, is that we can actually play around with the body tag. Okay, so we can take this to another level and we can go to the body tag, all right, and we can actually do all of these same things on the body and still kind of push in the elements. So instead of the elements pushing against the side of the body, we're going to have the body pushing against the side of the element. Okay, so we're going to change this up just one more time, and I want to show you some of the options that you have. So up here, I'm actually going to take out margin. So I'm going to delete margin. I'm going to keep padding, but I'm going to take out margin here. And what's going to happen is that you're going to see our elements go directly to the side. So, or the sides. So we're going to save it, refresh it. So you can see here now, there is almost no space between the edge or the edge of the window and the actual element. We still have the padding. You can see the padding on the inside. But let's try something. Let's go down here to body. Okay, and inside body, I'm going to use padding. Okay, so the body itself, which is the whole page, okay, is actually going to push in on the elements. So watch this. So I'm going to go padding dash right, and padding dash left, and I'm actually going to push it in. So this is going to be 5% here, and padding dash left, I'm going to do 5% as well. Okay, oops, that's not right. Colon, 5%, semicolon, and hopefully what it will do is it'll push it both in. So I'm going to save it, refresh it, and look at that. I was able to push these two elements in because I have padding on the body. Okay, so that allows us control over all of our elements all at the same time. So in this situation, I don't actually have to put margin into the H1 or the P. It's automatic. Okay, it just pushes it together. Okay, so these are some basic strategies and techniques for working with the CSS box model. Is that you have to think about everything's a box, everything has padding, everything has border, and everything has margin. Okay, even the body has those properties as well. So again, this is CSS Box Model. Make sure that you take a look at it on W3 Schools. You know, right here and don't forget these properties: width, height, border, margin, and padding. In our next lesson, we're going to talk about width and height and how we can do things with absolute positioning.